The guy can't take any sort of, hey, the things you're doing aren't all 100% amazing. Well, that's got to be a hoax. What? No, you're fucking up a little bit. Let's fix it. The cleaner says, were you also watching Martha Stewart too, you faggot? Well, thank you. I appreciate that. No. We are not going to start calling me Gravy Boat Imholt. That is not my name, Bapa Shab. I am not Gravy Boat Imholt in the least. MSO says, I bet Aaron does know the spot price for queso. Oh, shit. One of the little jars like that, I think, is $3.49. Should we do a spot check? Is it Tostitos? Is that the common one? White. I'm a white queso man. Of course I am, right? Light the lamp. Tostitos white queso jar price. It's the circle one, the little one. Let's say, I think it's $3.49 for a jar. Oh, look at that. I'm wrong. I don't know. Look at that, MSO. I was wrong. Oh, no, that's the tall boy. Here's the regular one. $5.09. Here's one for $4.99. So they're about $5. Holy shit, that means the price of queso has gone up. You know what, guys? It is time to fucking riot. I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. I didn't realize that my queso had gone from $3.50 to $5. You know what, guys? I'm a Mamdani guy now. I like Zoran Mamdani. I'm very upset. Nigel Rhodes thought it was funny that I called a jar of queso a tall boy. I don't know. What do you want me to call it? A pounder? I'll start calling him a pounder of queso. Hey, Aaron, you want some queso? Yeah, but get me the little jar. Don't get me a pounder. What? What? Hold on. How much is in a tall jar of queso? If it's 16 ounces, that's awesome. I got to know. 33.2 ounces? No, that's way too much. That's not how much is in there. Oh, no, it's true. Okay, so the regular size one is 15 ounces of queso. So technically the normal one is the pounder, and the tall one is the double pounder. All right, well, then it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Approachable says, fuck, the price of queso went up, which means starting next week, the goal is going to be higher. I'm sorry, guys. I got to raise the goal by about $1.50 to cover the cost of queso. Sorry. I had no idea. I didn't know that was the case. I didn't know that was going on. I've been woefully ignorant of how hard the economy has been on people. Speaking of how difficult the economy has been on people, Ben Shapiro is tired of listening to us whining and bitching. Ben Shapiro is tired of listening to young people. I guess this isn't even me because I'm an old guy now. Ben Shapiro is tired of listening to Gen Z talk about how unaffordable houses are. Again, I'm not cherry picking these clips. They just show up. He says this shit. Ben Shapiro discussed affordability of housing, which for young people getting out of school now is insane. I mean, it's the worst it's ever been. This is the worst housing market to get into. If you're looking to downsize, it's aces. It's awesome. But if you're looking to just get into it, it's never been a worse time. Well, Ben Shapiro says, instead of us demanding more out of our economic policy, and instead of us demanding more out of our government to either perform or get the hell out of the way, Ben Shapiro says maybe we should just lower our standards. I really can't wait for this guy to take a fucking plane to Israel and get the hell out of here. I'm really excited for it. He's a disease. Ben Shapiro's a cancer.
Could raise a family of four on a single income, have a house, have a car, and have a middle-class life.
So I think that there are a few things that are slightly a misnomer about that. So I think that, number one, your grandparents, depending on when they grew up, in, say, the 30s, actually couldn't. I mean, your grandparents were dirt poor if they grew up in the Great Depression in the 1930s. That was a very, very bad.
Because the economy was all agricultural. Everything was rural. He's talking about his parents. He's talking about the boomers who bought $60,000 houses in the 80s that are worth $500,000, $600,000 now.
a decade.
Sure.
And then if they lived from 1941 to 45 in this country, then your grandfather was likely to be being shot at in either Europe or the Pacific. So,
Ben, you know what? This is what I hate about this disingenuous asshole. You know what these guys are talking about. Stop doing this. Crowder does this too. They take the exception and pretend you're talking about the exception. No, Ben, we know during World War II, shit was hard. We got it. We know that during the Dust Bowl and the Great Depression, shit was tough. You know what they're talking about. Stop it.
those are rough years, turning those into sort of the golden age of what it was like to live in America. So when people talk about this, what they're really talking about is a fairly short period of American history that existed essentially between the end of World War II and economically the rise of the rest of the world. When the rest of the world...
No. Us millennials remember buying houses at 3.5% and a 4-bedroom, two-bathroom house, about 1,800 square feet for $139 at 3.5%. I know that. That was my first house in 2012. So 1946 to 2012. Government got involved and rigged the game for the fucking bankers, Ben. Let's stop pretending that the rest of the world forced our houses to be more expensive. Knock it off, Ben. This is bullshit rewriting of history and brainwashing. Speculators were allowed into the housing market. Ninja loans were allowed into the housing market where you didn't have to have proof of a job or income or anything else. The banks got greedy and the government guaranteed the loans. We could have had an economic policy in this country that said, if the bank doesn't feel you can afford the house, they're not going to lend you the money. But instead, the government went, hey, the more houses that sell, the better the economy looks. We can pump up this bubble, and it's good for voters, and we look good, and we'll keep our seats in Congress. So let's just guarantee the loans. I mean, it's a fucking mortgage. Who doesn't pay their mortgage, right? So it'll never fail. And then these bankers got mad greedy because why wouldn't you? If someone else is footing the bill and you can make a shitload of money, all these bankers had to do was give out the shitty mortgage, sell it to another mortgage holder, a bank, an investment firm, whatever, and then it was off their books. So basically, they played a big game of musical chairs with the economy. And that even though the banks holding the mortgages should have been the one holding the bag, it was the American taxpayer who had to pay for it. And you know what's terrible is if we would have let the motor companies fail, if we would have let the banks fail, it would have sucked for a few years. But the glorious thing about capitalism is it heals its wounds and they scar over, and you remember from the scars not to do that again. When you just bail out these companies and you prop up a fraudulent system, you never learn. And now we're in the same fraudulent system.
It was basically in ruins. And so America could send a bunch of money to Europe and then produce all the products here because literally there was no industrial base anywhere else on planet Earth. They'd all been destroyed by World War II. And then you could work one income and you could still do that. That was actually not the way that virtually all work was done in the United States ever. I mean, if you go back to the 1910s.
Industry in Europe was rebuilt under the Marshall Plan. It got rebuilt. It didn't take until 2001 for Europe to get, or 2008, I'm sorry, for Europe to get back into the industrial game. Stop it, Ben. This is more of that pseudo intellectual nonsense that a lot of these guys on the right are peddling in.
1900s, when this was largely an agricultural society, mom was working on the farm, right? And when you're talking about problems of, for example, industrial labor, women were working in factories. And so this kind of brief period in American history, which was actually
1946 to about COVID. 1946 to about COVID, maybe a little bit before that. Let's go 2015. That's not a brief period, Ben. That's 70 years.
Sort of an outlier in terms of all world history. And treating that as like the norm is not true. Second of all, the housing affordability crisis, the average house in the United States is significantly nicer, significantly larger, with central air. If you looked
Hey, Generation Z, don't worry. It's all right that you can't afford a home. They're really nice. What a dick thing to say. Hey, I can't afford a house, man. They're way too fucking expensive. Our monetary policy is shit. Our banking policy is shit. I can't afford this house even if they would give me the loan. Yeah, but it's really nice and has air conditioning, doesn't it? Yeah, Dick, thanks. Most houses have had that central air in them since the 90s.
House that your grandparents were living in 1952, you would say this place is a box. This place is bad. And if you look at the job that your grandparents were working in 1953 at the Ford factory, you sitting in your comfortable office, your air-conditioned office, complaining about your sciatica from your uncomfortable office chair, and then you're like, oh man, I'm really longing for those days of riveting.
Why don't you get why people hate you? Why are the ones that don't like you the irrational bigots? We're just listening to you talk. You're a really fucking hateable, dickish, mean, bad guy. You're an asshole. You've been backed by billionaires your entire fucking career. So don't talk down to these plebs who have actually earned their money. Jesus Christ, what a hateable human being. What a soulless death merchant. What a cunt.
That is not an easy job. And by the way, it's not because we shipped it overseas, because machines do it now. And so, again, this is not to say everything is perfect, because it isn't. But I think that having a false picture of the economic past leads to bad conclusions about the economic present that are not supportable by the actual data.
Dude, that's a fucking word salad. And it's full of so many misconceptions and misnomers. I mean, that was just, I'm surprised. Dude, he should get a check from hedge fund managers after that answer.
Well, you make good points. I guess what I'm saying as well is...
No, he doesn't.
If you look at the other candidates in this election that Mamdani's just won, you did not have the same level of speaking to people's concerns about some of those issues.
I agree. I mean, empathy sells in politics and also makes for very bad policy.
What? Empathy sells in politics. It also makes really bad policy. You see, to Ben, empathy isn't a real thing. You can't see what someone's going through and understand it and get it. It's just a political tool to Ben. There's so many thoughts going through my head right now that's like, I'm not the mean, bad, crazy one. Why aren't you allowed to hate people who have this much disdain for you, who are disgusted by you, who think that empathy is a political trick and not something that we, the people, actually feel for others? Jesus, Ben, you soul. No wonder this guy can smile and jack off to a fucking genocide. He doesn't feel anything. And as long as they're brown, Ben doesn't even really consider them people. But don't worry, we're the hateful ones because we criticize him.